Okay, maybe the best way to start out is kind of walk me through pet food stamps. How did everything get started?
Well, late last year, I was figuring out what to do, and I had spent some time previously with a friend who was having difficulties, was on food stamps. And when I went with her and spent the day, she at night bought cans of cat food, and I asked her, how come she's not buying any food? She said she can't afford it. And the term pet food stamps entered my mind, and I sat with it for a while, and I started to pursue it late last year and opened up the site in February of this year. Well, it's actually quite an interesting story. I had no money, no staff, no office, no nothing, and I had spent a couple of months contacting just about every animal welfare organization and pet food manufacturer, et cetera, that exists, and they all said, "Great idea, good luck," but there was no interest in participating either as a sponsor or contributing. So I figured I would put up the site and grow it slowly, get some donations, add some food, and over time, the if you build it, they will come strategy. And after a couple of days of the site being up, I did nothing. There was no action, literally 2 or 3 days. And I put up a few ads on Craigslist in the free category for the pet section. And after just a couple hours, it exploded. There were thousands and thousands of unique hits and hundreds and hundreds of applications coming in immediately. And I had set up a Facebook group, and a day or two later, a reporter from ABC in New Mexico contacted me through the Facebook group and asked for an interview. I did the interview. The next day, Tucker Carlson's website, the Daily Call-Up, did a fair story, and I knew once that happened, things were really going to pick up because it's widely read. And I woke up early the next day, and it was a top link on the Drudge Report, and that's when all of seemingly all of the media in the U.S. contacted me, and it exploded from that point. Perspective. There were tens of thousands of unique hits per day and thousands of applications a week, lots of media coverage, and that's basically what I mean by exploding. Not even remotely. All together, I don't have an exact number of applications because I've discovered that a fair amount of people sent in duplicate or even possibly triplicate applications, but was somewhere probably between 150 to 225,000 applications, either from people who sent in email applications in the mail or people who signed up on the website. So I have a pretty good idea about that. But the donations have not matched. I was hoping to get a full year before disclosing these numbers, but I will tell you that we received approximately $65,000 in donations since we opened in February. Approximately 45,000 from individuals and one $20,000 grant from an animal welfare organization. So the cost of the program we've determined is several million dollars per month to actually run just the pet food aspect of the program. And we're nowhere near where we need to be money-wise, obviously, to cover the costs because so many people obviously need this help. It's widely reported that 50 million Americans or somewhere around there are receiving food assistance, and there's even talk about cutting 40 billion from the program, which the president did say he would veto, but again, we don't know where that's going to end up. And we've worked tremendously hard contacting many foundations, both animal and hedge funds and different types of pet food manufacturers, everyone we could to get these grants and donations up. And there are some, good potentials in the pipeline. But that's basically what we need is we need funding to satisfy all the applicants, and we're doing everything we can to get to that point. That's true. Well, what we did was we paid a company called Constant Contact, which is a mass email program, and there are lots of rules about that, and we've obviously followed them. All of the applicants got mass emails. We tried to call at the beginning in March and April in our office, applicants up, and only about 1 out of 15 people would answer the phone. So it was an exercise in futility. So I figured to send the mass emails to contact people to let them know we received their information and we'll get to them when we could. And the data, the statistics from Constant Contact showed that only about 40% of the applicants actually opened up and read the email. So 60% of the applicants who we sent emails to at an expense never got the email. So rightly in their mind, they're saying they weren't contacted when they actually were. Now it could have gone to spam, or there could be some other reasons, some email accounts that they don't use too often that they just use when they sign up for accounts. But that's the simple explanation of that. And I could tell you that I personally and some other people spend hours a day listening to voicemails. We still have 15,000 voicemails that haven't been returned, having spent hours a day calling people back, and emails at night. I know I personally spend at least 4 to 5 hours, 7 days a week responding to emails, and I have close to 100,000 emails that have not been responded to, simply because we don't have the manpower to do it or the money to hire somebody to do it. So unfortunately, because of the demand, that's just the way it is at this point, and we do hope to get to everybody eventually, but that's just the rule as it is now. Well, can you repeat the name? Okay. Okay. Okay, and there actually have been questions about that, because reasonably, if somebody submits an application, and again, the application is basic information, name, address, telephone number, we require a photocopy of a state ID and an award letter of benefits showing that a person is receiving either food stamps or welfare, and the address on the benefit letter, the award benefit letter, needs to match the address on the state ID. We never ask for a social security number ever. We never ask for a credit card number. And we use that information to validate that they would qualify for the program without having to get a social. That qualifies the people. So if somebody doesn't get a call back or an email, even though there were attempts to do so, I could understand how somebody would be concerned. But the information that's on the website is highly secure and encrypted. We paid and got the highest level of SSL protection that there is. Although those are no safeguards, you read about banks and things like that all the time, but there haven't been any problems. All of the mailed in applications we have are under lock and key, stored safely. It's never been shared with anybody. So the fear of having one's identity stolen is completely baseless, but understandable why somebody would say that. Well, there was a company. I don't have. I really would prefer not to go into that aspect of it, but I can tell you I understand why people would say that, but it's completely baseless. When you consider the fact that the charity has only been around for less than 3 quarters, have approximately 200,000 applications, and have received $65,000 in funding, calling somebody a scam for not getting your free food quickly enough just seems a little bit irrational to me. The organization should be given at least a full year to get things in order, and most likely more, because all of the charity watchdog sites require that you be in operation for 5 years before they post any of your personal financial information on the site. And they specifically said it takes years to get charities off the ground. So calling this a scam because they haven't received their free food yet is a little bit unreasonable, in my opinion. Well, I am overworked. I will say that, but over my head, I'd say no. The fact is that people desperately need the services of this program, and we're doing the best we can to satisfy as many people as we can, and we expect and hope in the very near future to get the kind of funding and sponsorships and partnerships we need to satisfy everybody. So I relate and sympathize with all of the applicants who need help, and it was set up to help people, and we are doing our best to do that. In time, not as quickly. I did not contact any media about this project. I put it up. I expected to grow it slowly over time. And as I told you at the beginning of this interview, the media coverage, which is great, basically brought all the applications up and a lot of exposure and didn't give us the time to really get things going. But I did expect in time that it would be a huge charity, rivaling in importance of the Humane Society and the ASPCA, and I still feel that today. Well, every single 501c3 charity is required to file yearly financials and disclosures, and we will do that. If you call up the Red Cross or the ASPCA or any nonprofit and ask them for current monthly operating expenses, they'll say if you want our operating expenses, look at last year's returns, and if you want this year's, wait till we file, and you'll get them next year. And that's pretty much my answer. All of the information, every dollar that came in, every dollar that went out, and all of the specific minutia of those reports will be released after our first full year of operations, which is just another couple of months from now. So, right, but as I said to you before, we have done everything we can to communicate with everybody, and we have records of that. The reports show that only 40% of the emails were open, so 60% of the people haven't been contacted, although the attempts were legitimately made. And if you look at the logistics of reaching out to that many people, it's just not possible to do over the phone without a huge staff. And if the emails aren't open and we've posted, please open the emails, and we've sent messages around social media, that's something that we can't be held accountable for if people aren't opening up their emails, or it goes to spam, or they use a different address that they don't check often. But again, the concern is legitimate and reasonable, and we do expect, being in operation for a little while, that all these concerns will be addressed and removed from people's conscience as to the validity of the organization. No, basically, I would say probably 100% of the funding we've received comes when there's news stories. We don't have the money to hire professional fundraisers. I read stories all the time. I saw on Anderson Cooper just a couple of weeks ago about a charity in Florida that spends 100 million, in a couple of years on fundraising. We don't have anywhere near that capacity right now, and I personally have contacted through written letters, emails, and phone calls hundreds of people and organizations looking for funding. And as I said, there are potentials in the pipeline that could really help fund the organization. But the funding just comes from people seeing stories and seeing it online. Oh no, they're around the country. In certain states, we have not. No, no, we hadn't registered it yet. Okay. I don't know who you spoke to, but that's not accurate at all. Just in the past couple of weeks, there have been dozens and dozens of orders placed just in the past couple of weeks. So the information you received was erroneous. Okay. Well, overwhelmed is a term that I would technically agree with. I don't have any problem with the term, but the information you received was wrong. They recently had a website update, and a lot of the information they had in their site in our account was wrong and faulty. So he could have been using, and probably was, faulty information to give you that information. But I have a list of all of the orders that were made, and there have been several dozen just in the past couple of weeks. So that was incorrect information. Well, first of all, I'm not going to just give out names of people who apply to receive food. There's confidentiality issues, but I have no problem getting back to you later today with dozens and dozens of names of people that you can contact. There's no problem with that. There's no problem with that. The takeaway the takeaway from this whole thing is that since the 70s, since the offshoring of production and the financialization of the economy, not to go off on a political tirade, many people are really suffering. When this story broke, many Meals on Wheels delivery people were saying how the seniors that they give food to give that food to their cat or dog, and a lot of people go without eating themselves. Up to 7 million pets a year are surrendered to shelters because owners can't afford to feed them. And the trend has been ticking up consistently for decades now, and people are really, really suffering. And the fact that this program was started and got the response that it has shows the incredible need for this program. And a charity can't be faulted because so many people need its services and the funding isn't there to satisfy everybody immediately and quickly. And that's my takeaway. And I truly, truly feel and expect, I won't say hope, I expect that this charity, Pet Food Stamps, will grow to be as important to the animal community and to people as the ASPCA and Humane Society and others. And that's the tract I take, and that's why I'll work 80 hours a week and have for almost a year straight.
Mark, you have heard the people, both I'm sure on voicemails to you and emails to you, certainly on the Facebook page, who are calling what you're doing here a scam.
Well, it's hard to build out a calendar when you don't have money earmarked for certain things. I can tell you that the office space that we had up until just a couple of months ago was donated. And many calls have been made to malls around New York State and other places and other real estate developers looking for donated space. And there's a lot of people who said it sounds good because if a mall, for instance, has 80% capacity, they're not getting a penny from the other stores that aren't filled. If they donate that space to us, which we would also use for a pet food pantry to double as an office, they would get a tax credit at the end of the year, so they would at least get something for that space. So we are hopeful that I'm hoping within a couple of weeks we will hear from these people that there is a space available for us. Well, I could say now that I will rehire Constant Contact this month and send out another mass email to everybody. Uh, and they should get that email. If it's not in their inbox, it will be in their spam, and to check other email accounts that they use when they sign up for things that's not their primary email. And to please look out for it. Please be patient, knowing that it was set up to help people and animals. And we desperately need the funding, obviously, because nothing is donated. PetFlow doesn't give us anything for free. We pay retail price for every order. And if you know animal organizations or people who are interested in participating, please get in touch with us. And to all the applicants, you will eventually be reached either through email or phone. And if you are approved and we get the funding, you will be satisfied.